Junction's council meeting to order. Invocation will be led by Vice Mayor Rizzi and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Gail Evans.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being gathered here today to do the city's business on behalf of our constituents. We ask that each of us be guided by you in the decisions that we make that affect others and not by any personal agenda or ego. We ask to be humble in our disagreements and that we never forget we are here to serve the people of this beautiful community. We thank you for all the rain, Father, that we've been given. Father, we ask for your protection over all of our first responders, those serving in our military, and all of their family members. We ask that they be brought home safely each and every day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rizzi,
Present.
Councilmember Biggs.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Here.
Councilmember Nesser.
Present.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. As a reminder, all items in the consent agenda shall be approved with one motion. If a council member wishes to remove an item, and we only have one, the request will be made prior to approving the consent agenda and be moved to new business. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
You know, I don't have any awards or presentations, so regional intergovernment updates. Yeah, I got
Your Honor.
one in there, so
Your Honor.
start. Yes.
Councilman Schroeder.
Yes, okay, I can hear him, sorry. Robert, go ahead.
That's okay. No new updates.
Okay.
I thought he said he had an update.
No update?
You know, could you shorten that up next time?
Too long. Your Honor. The only update that I would have is just a reminder that on Friday is the Pinal Partnership meeting in Casa Grande, and the topic is where is the water? So.
All right, for me. As you remember this photo, this is the tower out at I'm apologize, I keep wanting to call it Williams, because I'm being in Williams Air Force Base, but at Mesa Gateway Airport. That section that they brought up there weighed 225,000 pounds. And of course, they had to put it up on top of this structure right here. And of course, there was a delay because they had to move the cranes to get them in the proper position to be able to lift it up there and set it down. And now they've turned around and have put the very top portion of it on, and that's where the activity is going to be for the control of where they oversee the runway and everything. And we have a short video.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
You have to remember, that thing's weighing 225,000 pounds.
Square peg in a round hole.
And there was no wind blowing that day either. Now, this is the top.
It looks small till you see those tiny little ants on the bottom walking around.
Wow.
Okay, so they are now got this in position, and they're about ready to start occupying or finishing up the structure, and then the occupation and then control on it. So they're moving forward, and of course, anyone that's be flying out, take a look down there. And they've gotten several destinations that they've added to their capabilities, and the prices are fairly reasonable right now. Well, that's all I have. Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brian Powell, City Manager. At our last council meeting, I reported that the boards and commissions application process is underway. We've got strong participation so far in the process. We're excited about that. And one of the greatest things about local government is that it's the closest to the people, and it gives a great opportunity to be involved through the boards and commission process with our local government. So applications are out, and it closes in September. So we still have a couple more weeks. And then I'm very happy to share with you, we have some hardware. This last week, we were presented at the Arizona chapter of the American Planning Association an award, Apache Junction General Plan. So remember, we did this and passed that through, and staff was did it by itself, no consultant, no anything. For that product, Apache Junction General Plan 2020 to 2050 was an honorable mention in the Arizona chapter of the APA, or the American Planning Association, and we have a little video to show what was presented at the award ceremony.
On behalf of everyone who worked on the Apache Junction General Plan 2020-2050, Legendary Landscapes and Lifestyles, we are honored to accept the award of honorable mention from the Arizona APA's Comprehensive Plan category. Through the combined efforts of city staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council, community groups, and residents, this comprehensive plan establishes precise, proactive policies and targeted goals that guide responsible development. The plan includes forward-thinking innovations such as Apache Junction's novel 1H2O element, holistically reevaluating water, wastewater, stormwater, and water reuse from a comprehensive perspective. The city incorporated its award-winning active transportation plan into the circulation element, and along with non-traditional downtown element and intergovernmental cooperation element. These efforts speak to the high level of quality this document upholds and exemplifies. The comprehensive plan was prepared entirely in-house by our own city planners, communications department, and department heads, who devoted their time, efforts, and ambitions to this project, all while maintaining their standard workload and responsibilities. Through extensive outreach and community involvement, city staff successfully engaged the public. By addressing our residents' comments and concerns, we were able to secure a high level of community investment in this plan. The plan was overwhelmingly approved by the electorate in August of 2020. The goals, objectives, and policies of the Apache Junction General Plan form a solid foundation where future developments can build sustainably while promoting a strong quality of life for Apache Junction residents. The principles and policies found in this plan can be utilized and repurposed in other towns and cities looking for best practices, promoting cohesive, sustainable communities. One example of transferability in this plan became one of the hallmarks of the general plan. The plan designates 12 square miles on the north and eastern edges of the city as conservation and open space. Preserving and protecting this area from development will set Apache Junction apart for generations to come.
Okay, I want to thank all of our dedicated staff who made this possible, and appreciate all the hard work that they put in to make this happen. Thank you, Larry, and your team for that work, and as well all of our department directors that were involved. And at this time, I'd like to turn the time over to Al Bravo for community events.
And, boy, that voice sounded familiar, by the way. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Al Bravo, Public Information Officer for the City of Apache Junction. Time for announcements for August 17th, 2021. Before you know it, it's going to be January 8th. January 8th, 2022, of course, is Founders Centennial Celebration Day. That kicks off the year of marking 100 years of our community. The committee would like to thank all of those who have stepped up to sponsor the celebration next year. And so I have some of our sponsors already who have given towards next year's events: Republic Services, AJI Sporting Goods, Ted and Kelly Grummel, Braden Briggs, Aaron McDermott of State Farm, Greg Davis, the Superstition Mountain Community Facilities District, and of course, the City of Apache Junction. So thank you to all of those folks, and I'm sure there's more people who would like to get involved, and we hope that they will do so. Don't forget that the committee still meets twice a month on Wednesdays over at the library. The fashion show fundraiser that you should know, mark your calendars for October the 3rd. That's the Give Cancer the Boot fashion show fundraiser at the Robert Horn Ford car lot. The event will be at 6 p.m. At Robert Horn Ford, 3400 South Tomahawk, of course, right off US 60. VFW Post 7968, which is right off of Phelps behind Los Gringos Restaurant, is playing host to a meet and greet event to get to know your local elected officials, folks from the city, the county, school district, fire district, and the community college district are slated to attend. That's on Wednesday, September the 15th at 5 p.m. Don't forget, County Junction Idol continues at Taradiddles on Sundays. Must be 18 or over. There are cash prizes. Taradiddles, of course, right across from Flatiron Park on North Apache Trail. All are welcome to the Veterans Memorial Gazebo. That's right on the corner of Idaho and Superstition, directly west of the police headquarters, for a dedication of a monument marking the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. This event will be on Saturday, September 11th at 8:46 a.m. A quick follow-up to something I mentioned in our last meeting. You may remember that our Eagle Scout, Lloyd Stengline, is starting a seed library at our library. Well, that is just about to happen. The seeds will be ready on September the 7th. So that's the first day of the seed library. Be there with your green thumb. You can read all about what he's done and what's doing and what the library has done with this, great effort on behalf of this longtime city resident on our homepage. We have a great story that was written by our library on our homepage, ApacheJunctionAZ.com. And as all of you probably know by now, very critical need for blood. Not just here, but everywhere. You can help by donating blood at the library. They're going to have a blood drive on Thursday, September the 2nd, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And those are your announcements for August the 17th, 2021.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Can I just reiterate to the VFW meet and greet? I actually sent an email to Jennifer that will get forwarded out to all of you, but all council members, all school board members, fire board members, and local elected officials are invited. And the VFW has asked that that is a publicly posted meeting so that we don't have to worry about open meeting law violations or anything. So just so you guys know, I don't know if you've all seen that yet or if it's gotten sent out, but wanted to make sure you were all aware you are invited.
Your Honor, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move the new business item up right now before we get into the others in the public hearings. Okay, presentation, discussion, and recommendation updates for the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1, Chapter 4, Fees, Article 4.1, Parks and Recreation Fee Schedule.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Liz Lingenbach, the Parks and Recreation Director. I'm also accompanied today by Riley King, our Management Analyst, who's done much of the work on this project this year. We brought forward to you last March just a quick introduction of the fee study that would be taking place, and then this has been before our Parks and Rec Commission for several meetings after that. So we review our fees approximately every 5 years, try to really make sure that it's aligned with the local market as well as the needs of our community and the needs for sustaining our operations. We have historically had 3 primary funding sources for the Parks and Rec Department. General fund tax dollars is the biggest pocket of money. Our development fee fund, and then user fees are the 3 biggest pockets that help us to provide the great services, programs, and parks that we have here in our community. These are also supplemented by grants and other various smaller pots of money. We, as I said before, we had shared this a while back ago. March 1st, we brought it and just shared with you the current fees. and then a little bit about what our approach was going to be. It has gone to the commission for 3 separate meetings, and at their May 5th meeting, they approved the recommendations. They were very involved in these. They've sent us back several times to kind of look at different ways that we can look at residency fees and commercial fees, some different things, and I think they did an amazing job this year. So we had 3 major priorities that we were looking at when we did our market study. First, as you know, and as we shared before, local profit-making or commercial businesses cannot currently rent our facilities. Our facilities historically have always just been available for nonprofits and private individuals to be able to rent. For many years, that has changed all throughout the state, and we really do see a need from many of our businesses that want to rent our parks as well as our equipment for different activities that they do. In addition, it can be another great source of revenue for the city, so that way we can continue to offer the programs and parks that we currently do. So we did take a look at that. As you can see, so these cities are our market cities that we compared to, that was city council derived many years ago. As you look at the commercial rate, so folks that have a commercial rate in addition to their normal non-resident or nonprofit type of rate, for rentals, meaning facility fees, these are all the entities. Pretty much everybody had commercial rates except for Casa Grande and Marana at the time, and then obviously Apache Junction. They vary greatly, but a good portion of them were in that 50% to, some of these say 2 times the rate, so 200% more. Our commission did choose a number that was in the 50% range, so taking our regular rental fees and charging a 50% more upgrade on that for for-profit types of businesses above what the nonprofit rate is that we currently have. We'll be getting into this in a little bit more detail on the comparison table here shortly, so you can see that. Additionally, we looked at non-resident fees. So for the last 10 to 15 years, we keep talking about whether we want to do resident or non-resident fees. As you can see, many of the cities in this group, probably about half, do have a resident rate, a non-resident rate that is greater than their resident fees. All across the valley, resident fees are very common. We have always been hesitant to have them just because many of our programs rely on our non-residents for optimal class size in order for those programs to actually go. To have a league that has enough kids for a substantial amount of teams, it's really important to us. So we've always been hesitant. I thought our commission actually had a really good recommendation though this year that we considered, and they thought, well, maybe we could dip our toe in the water a little bit more and charge a non-resident rate just for facility rentals. Because facility rentals it does take away from what is available to the residents, so that might be one way that we could kind of look at it and be able to do some non-resident rates, bring in a little bit more revenue, but also give our residents a little something else that they get that everybody else doesn't. We'd already started in our previous years doing an early bird registration that was only for residents, and that was very successful. So that our most popular programs that they get first dibs on, swimming lessons, some of our different rental dates. But this might be another way for us, again, to kind of dip our feet in the water, make sure that we can manage it appropriately. And again, you'll be able to see that when we go to the comparator grid here shortly. The commission is recommending that those fees are going to be 25% more than what a non-resident or resident pays for facility rentals only. After we talked about commercial fees and the non-resident types of fees, we did look at all of our regular fees, so across the market, really evaluated all the different things that we were offering, and so there were a few areas where we do feel like we could have some adjustments. Overall, we are not recommending changing very many of our fees at all for our non-residents, and for our residents and our nonprofits. I have shared a few areas where we are and kind of the justification from the commission. So facility equipment rental, as I said, we are recommending commercial rental rates to be added this year. So it's a 50% increase on what a nonprofit would do, but this is a new fee making it possible for businesses to be able to rent our facilities. We're adding that non-resident facility rental fee at 25% more than the nonprofits in our residents. And then, as you'll see in the grid that we have, that we'll be bringing up here shortly, we are looking at some of these areas that we have the most costs, and we are the farthest below the market in, and we felt these were areas that we could bring it up just a little bit more without a huge impact to our community, but also be able to bring in that revenue that truly is needed for us to be able to continue operations. So pool rentals, we were very below the market. We weren't even bringing in enough money to pay for guards at the rate that we had. So we've adjusted that. Our sports courts fees see an increase. Our sports field preps. We took a look at our personnel fee that's attached. Not very many rentals have a personnel fee, but anything that requires extra staff that isn't part of the normal. If somebody preps a field, that's already in the field prep fee. This is if we had to bring staff on site special to be a part of that rental. And then our stage fees are going to see some changes, but they're not increases. It's actually re-looking at how we do our stage fees, and we'll explain that a little bit more here shortly. For our facility entry fees and passes, we do have some recommendations. We are minimally increasing our pool entry fees and our pool summer passes to offset our increasing operational costs. We do have youth scholarships available at 50% of the cost of the pass. This is thanks to the Lost Dutchman Marathon and their generous donations. So even though we'll have a small fee increase there, any of our families that can't afford it, they can certainly get a pass, either a youth pass or a family pass at a much reduced rate. In addition, all of our passes are eligible for a 15% discount if they purchase it through opening weekend. We are currently not recommending any changes to the MGC fees at this time. We really feel like the price point that we're at is most manageable for our community, and it would be tough to increase that. We do have full youth scholarships available, just as an FYI, if people can't afford it. But we are really working on increasing usage back up to the MGC again, and so we really want to focus on that as more of a way of bringing in more revenue versus changing those fees at this time. Additionally, there's some just general rec program activity fee changes that we made. We updated our adult sports fee range just to accommodate some of our lower individual league fees. So it used to say so we didn't have a fee in there for our golf league. We only charge $5 for our golf league, and then they pay a greens fee. Well, there wasn't a way of doing that truly in our fee, so we're adjusting that. Additionally, we are updating the special event fee range. It's generally $0 up to about $10 for our events. Very few of our special events actually charge a fee, but we want to be able to offer booth vendor fees. And so we feel that this is the proper category to put it in, so we've upped that to like a $0 to $50, and that'll be more clear here on our next slide. So I'm going to stop this just briefly and show you the table that was in your packet. In 1 second. And there we go. So we're not going to go over this whole thing. You have in your packet this fee schedule comparator table. So this is really just so that you can see those changes that we're looking at compared to our current rates. And I'm going to go through what this entails here really briefly. Additionally, in your packet is the red line version of our ordinance. So that way you can, or the code, I'm sorry, not the ordinance, the code that actually lists our fees. We won't go over that today, but that is in your packet. That reflects this as well. So we have the space here, or the item that has the fee associated with it. We have listed the benchmark average for you. So all those cities we showed you on that previous slide, this is the average of what all those cities charge for that particular facility when it was easy to do so. There's a few things that everybody doesn't do the same as us, but for the most part, we were able to add our benchmark average. This is our current resident nonprofit rate for things. We only have one rate currently with the facilities. This benchmark average is based on every city's current nonprofit resident rate, which is what we've always historically compared our fees to. If we were recommending a change to our fee schedule, you'll see that in this column. The non-resident fee, we wanted to show you what does it look like, the non-resident fee compared to our regular fee. So that's what you'll see in this column. Represents the 25% increase across our normal fees, and then the commercial fee with the 50% increase. So as you can see, for a small class meeting room, instead of $20 an hour, they would be charged $30 an hour. Almost all the time, when somebody asks about our fees and whether or not we would waive them for them, and we share with them our schedule, they're amazed at how low our fees are and can't believe that those are the rates, and they're actually very pleased. So we really feel confident that people will still see this as a reasonable amount, and if we compare with what the benchmark average is for nonprofits, we're still very low in most of our categories. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these. These were some of the items that I mentioned, and if there's anything in particular that you wanted to talk about, we can. I did want to bring your attention to the swimming pool fees. So these are our weekend pool rentals. As I said before, our current fee, we were charging a very low amount that doesn't cover lifeguards now because of minimum wage increases and just regular operation of the pool. This is the benchmark average, and this is what we are recommending our fees to go to based on our actual costs of running that pool rental for the public. The personnel service fee, we typically charge $25. We are recommending that to move up based on increases in minimum wage, overtime, benefits, things like that that we need to accommodate for. I will just tell you this is a very seldom used fee, but we want to make sure that it's adequate for our purposes. The mobile stage is one area that I did want to mention. So we did change this up a little bit. We used to have a lot of different fees. We weren't sure when we first put these out there of how they would be best utilized. Now, typically, so when somebody is doing it's going to get set up, it's being set up. And so we're really just going to charge a one-day fee. We are getting rid of the setup and close down fee. That's going away completely, is what the recommendation is. And then we are also wanting to have a reduced fee for any additional day that somebody has. And so again, that was a recommendation by our Parks and Rec Commission as we kind of kicked around this entire section right here. So the only thing that's really changing is the fact that we're getting rid of this fee, and that our additional fee is now $250 per day instead of it used to be $500 per day. And then you can see kind of over here what it would be for a non-resident and a commercial use. As I was talking about with sports, so previously we had a category for leagues that it was $50 to $500 because most of our leagues are anywhere from $50 to $500. Currently right now our softball league is $440, our basketball league is $300. It didn't give us room, though, for our golf league, which is an individual sport, and it only charges $5. So we're just asking to add that, to move that on down, so that way we'll have that flexibility. Same as for events, we just really wanted to have a bigger cap, so we had the ability to charge vendors and booths for special events in this special event category. The pool entry fees. So again, these are the benchmark averages. Our current fee right here, it's a wonderful deal, but we really do need to bring in a little bit more money. In addition, just changing that 50 cents is going to save lots of time and lots of different challenges at the pool. And so we just recommended rounding it up to the next dollar, and we still feel that it's very reasonable. Like I said, people can get a season pass, and our scholarship allows them to have that for half off. So they're paying $30 for a typical summer. This isn't a typical summer this year, but in our typical summer, that's less than $1 a day. So we are not, as I said before, we are not making any recommendations at this time to the Multi-Gen Center entry and memberships. Get back to this. So now just really questions, discussion, if you have any changes that you want us to be considering. I just want to let you know what's next, so we'll talk about that first. And then after we've decided this, if everything is good, then we will go and we will post the fees and the fee report for our mandatory 60-day waiting period prior to a public hearing where this will be on the agenda. And that date will be based on kind of what we decide today.
Okay, yes?
I have a question for Liz. just curiosity question. In both of your presentation and on your fee schedule, you said they could get minors can get a 50% discount, and if they sign up that first week or opening week, they get a 15, so that means they get a 65% discount?
No,
It
so
doesn't clarify.
our scholarship program is very specific, and it allows people off of our regular rate to get that 50% for a youth. If they qualify for the scholarship, they have to live in the area, they have to have the financial need for it, they have to be younger than 18. So yeah, then they wouldn't get that on top of the other discount.
Just curious. Why did you do away with, I can't find it now, the one fee that you totally did away with? It had to do with, was it the stage or the pool?
It's possible, well, great, both of those things. So the stage I shared with you, why we took that away, we felt like that was not necessary. The setup and tear down.
This 100 people or less, right here.
So what we have
Pool.
found is that it is really not very reasonable. So we used to have several different shared usage fees based on the amount of people that was going to be in that pool rental. But at the end of the day, once we get a certain amount of, it really needs to be based on just, are they willing to share or are they willing not to? So we had all these different categories, and we just truly didn't get a lot of people in the different categories. And if 149 people signed up, we still couldn't rent more than a certain amount for the rest of it. And so it really, as we compared to what other cities were doing, we just determined it wasn't really utilized very much, and it's not really comparable to what other cities are doing, and it doesn't help us in our operations very well.
Okay.
Yes.
I just have one clarification. On the mobile stage where it's $500 for the first day, and then you say mobile stage refundable security cleaning deposit. So whenever they rent the stage for the 500, they also have to pay, and it's an additional. So
Correct.
It's actually 1,000.
So but that part is refundable. So as long as nothing goes wrong that they did, they're getting that $500 back. So that was really just more, insurance is the wrong word, but an insurance to us that we had some money. It's really hard to get money from people after they do damage. And so it was just a way to have that. We don't rent it very often, and the times that we do, we've never had a problem, but it's really there just for a little extra security for us.
So it's really 500 plus 500.
But 500 of it is fully refundable, yes.
You know, just as certain groups, you know, to come up with $1,000 versus coming up with 500.
So, and I think that's a great point. So it is a check that is held, not necessarily deposited or anything until we needed to some degree of that, so.
No, good, okay.
Your Honor. So in regards to the nonprofit, so I understand we have the resident and the nonprofit rate. Was there any discussion on a non-city or I guess a non-resident nonprofit rate? So if a nonprofit from Mesa wanted to come use one of our parks, was there any discussion as to charging them slightly higher than we would charge one of our own nonprofits? Is that done? Is that not done?
There's not. So as we looked at other cities, nobody has a separate, like, non-resident, mainly because nonprofits, even as we've worked with them, really, most of them service such a wide region. And so even people that didn't have an address in Apache Junction, they would find a way to justify that they served Apache Junction in some sort. So it really just becomes telling somebody no versus, and not for a lot of many people in that category.
Okay.
But great question.
Yep. And then can you clarify, and I know it's in the report, and I think you highlighted it a little bit, what for-profit businesses or entities or organizations are allowed to rent? Like, I understand they're not allowed to rent Prospector Park, but can you kind of walk through why that can happen,
Sure.
what they can use?
So we do not have, commercial use is not allowed on any of our Bureau of Land Management leased properties, and that is Prospector Park, the rodeo grounds, and Silly Mountain, and our multi-use trail system. Those are all leases. So currently, unless it was a business that's associated with an already, a city event. So like obviously a food truck who is a commercial entity can be at my event, but they can't rent the facility for their own event. So currently, commercial use isn't allowed at any park right now, but even moving forward, they will not be allowed to be able to be at those until at whatever date, maybe we purchase the rodeo grounds down the road, that might be possible. Currently, right now, they could rent though at Flatiron, Superstition Shadows Park, Little League Park, and then the Multi-Gen Center, which is probably one of our most requested facilities by businesses. In addition, they could rent any of our equipment.
Liz, would you clarify for the public who may not know why profit businesses cannot operate on BLM land?
Yeah, so we have a recreation and public purpose lease, and it is supposed to be for public reasons, for recreational purposes, and not for any one person to profit from that public land, and it's still under public domain. So that is their primary reasoning of why that is the case, and so we are very limited. Whatever, if there is any commercial use on that, all of that money has to go directly back into the facility.
Okay, anyone else?
So we'll be bringing this back, so then we will be posting these, not having heard anything that you wanted to change too much. We will be fine-tuning the resolution and the ordinance, and it will get posted, and then we'll be bringing that back 60 days for a public hearing for decision-making. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay, now we're going to go to the public hearings. And number 6, and there's a presentation, discussion of public hearing and consideration proposed resolution number 21-30 and ordinance number 1508 related to the document entitled August 2120 Amendments to the City of Apache Junction Code, Volume 2 Land Development Code related to non-residential bulk regulations.
Good evening, City Council. Just offer a brief overview of the items. So as you just read, we're looking at resolution number 21-30 and ordinance number 1508. Both of these are proposed, both of them go hand in hand. They are separate items on the agenda, but just looking at them together. Resolution number 21-30 is the adoption of a document titled August 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, and throughout that whole section. This is a focus on amendments to the non-residential use regulations and the non-residential bulk regulations. And both you and the Planning and Zoning Commission have seen this before for the benefit of the public, just going through it. We're looking at amending the zoning use table and everything. And the idea is, based on a state law, we are allowed to adopt a document as a public record, and then we are allowed to, through an ordinance, repeal and replace with that, and it just helps with the efficiency rather than the way that the legal code is of changing every single piece in different aspect. So these amendments are the result of staff work since about November of last year, when we were originally directed to refine the downtown land uses. That was part of a general plan movement in order to really be able to shape downtown core in line with the policies that were voted on in the general plan, the goal being to create downtown. And that was generally a little bit more broadly expanded as we altered the uses for the B3 zoning district. It was considered to change the other ones as well for the sake of efficiency. And these amendments have been viewed through several different public meetings. This year we started with the June 22nd work session with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Then it was a July 13th work session, and then the whole time we were refining this, working on it with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it was voted on with a 7-0 vote to recommend the approval of the proposed amendments on July 27, 2021. And so the document before you today is a representation of a lot of staff work as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation, in addition to a couple changes that were made after the last August 2nd City Council work session, just incorporating the changes that were mentioned and agreed upon at that time. And in addition to that, we have publicly advertised this. We had not received much public comment. However, there was a letter provided by, it is Bella Flor, which is a landowner of a lot of property downtown in the B3 section that is specifically affected by this. They have indicated that they would like to share some thoughts today following my presentation, in addition to the letter that they provided.
Do we have any questions right now?
Can you put the map back up
Yes, of
before they
course.
speak? Thank you.
No question? Oh, I thought you wanted a question.
Oh, no.
Okay, so is this now,
The
Public
developer.
hearing.
pardon,
Public hearing.
public hearing, or do we want
There's no applicant.
them to come up now?
Well, the city's the applicant, so I think, I know Mr. Anderson wants to speak, however, technically it'd be a member of the public. So I think you would open up the agenda of the public hearing, and the mayor, you do have, you have limited authority to extend the time period. It's 5 minutes, but you may extend it if you believe, for the good of the city, that it should be stated more time.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Reese Anderson. I'm with the law firm of Pugh and Lake, and my address for your record is 1744 South Val Vista, number 217 in Mesa. I've had the pleasure to be in front of you many times before, and it's good to see you all again. With me tonight is Carl Hewish, who's the owner of Bella Flor Communities. I want to introduce him, and we have a short presentation just to walk through and share some thoughts for you to consider with this extraordinary great work that staff has done, and we're very grateful for that. So we just like to, with your permission, Mayor, get our presentation and just share it with you. Is that all right?
Yes.
I do have extra copies of our letter that we submitted to the staff. If you didn't get it, then I'm happy to pass those out. But if you did, by all means, I'll just hold on to what we have. So, Mayor, we're going to do our best. We knew we had 5 minutes, but we'll do our best. And but please, this is an important topic for all of us, but we won't belabor the point.
Okay,
So with that, I'd like to introduce Carl Hewish.
okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor Rizzi and members of the City Council. I'm Carl Hewish, the majority owner of Bella Flor Communities. We've been building in Apache Junction for some time. Whether we're lucky or unlucky, our most recent subdivision was called Bella Corona, and that debuted in 2019. But thanks to the increasing good things that are happening in Apache Junction, it's been one of our best-selling communities. And so if you haven't had a chance to see it, I invite you to do so. Okay, Bella Flor Communities owns approximately 90 acres of land in Apache Junction, and we can provide this presentation to the staff as well afterwards. Those are the areas outlined in green. So that's land that my company owns. And then of those 90 acres, 81 acres, this is a little bit of a close-up map, 81 acres are in or near downtown Apache Junction. Again, this is the land highlighted in green. And then just to further focus in on it, of the 81 acres, 77 acres are Zone B3. And so just give you a moment to get your bearings there. And so that's the topic here today, is the Zone B3 land. I believe of the land that you're contemplating for B3, of the undeveloped land, we own the majority of that land. We share the same vision as the City of Apache Junction, as explained by your staff very capably over several months. We want to create a vibrant, sustainable downtown. It is a private-public partnership. We know that it takes all of us working together to create that vibrancy, to create a successful downtown environment. It's nearly impossible to jump from vacant land to a vibrant downtown. For example, downtown Gilbert, that doesn't happen overnight. It goes step by step. But what we can do with this B3 zoning is put in place the right pieces so that one right step happens, then another step, and then another step, and then it evolves into the downtown that you'll be proud of, that you would like to have. This is a market analysis that the city commissioned and was obtained in June 2021. You may have read it. If you haven't, I would encourage you to read it. It does focus on multifamily uses, but it talks a lot about the various strengths and weaknesses of the downtown Apache Junction area. And I think it's very helpful for the context to understand what's going on. We're planning for multifamily uses, but we know that having the right mix of commercial and retail is all important to support a successful downtown. Now, here's my main theme. Retail is evolving. Retail is evolving in ways that we cannot predict. By many estimates, COVID has accelerated that evolution of retail by 5 years or 10 years. Things that would have taken place over a decade or over 2 decades just took place. We can't predict what will happen in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years with retail. It is going through a metamorphosis. It is going through a tremendous transformation. Let me give you an example. Could you imagine if I asked you 5 or 6 years ago that Amazon would establish retail brick and mortar stores? The world's largest internet retailer establishing brick and mortar stores? You would have laughed at me. Yet here we are. Amazon's now establishing brick and mortar stores. Can you imagine that car dealerships would be set up in malls, in showrooms, in 4,000 or 5,000 square foot areas occupied formerly by bakeries or electronics parts? Again, if I had told you that that would happen 5 years ago, of course I would have known. I would not have known. You would have laughed. No way. That's not where auto dealers go. They go somewhere else. But yet here they are. We see these at Fashion Square Mall in Scottsdale. This is a picture of a Fashion Island Mall in California. The point is this: retail is significantly evolving. None of us can predict where it's going to be in a year or 5 years or 10 years. Our request, our suggestion is to put in place a zoning plan that gives you the flexibility and the control to make decisions at the time as the market evolves. Because what's happened in the last 5 years is only going to continue. I just can't predict it. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be different than today. Whatever we think today is what retail looks like, it will be different in 5 years, it will be different in 10 years. We are very grateful for city staff and all of their efforts, for Larry, for Nick, for their team. We are united with them on the vast majority of uses and approaches. They've been very thoughtful, they've been very deliberate. All of us owe them a debt of gratitude for the work that they've done. We ask simply for your input and direction on 11 uses that we're not suggesting should move from a no to a yes. We're suggesting should be a CUP, a conditional use permit. Why? Because we don't know the future. To give you the flexibility and the control, we believe that a CUP is the right tool for these uses. Now, not all uses are equal. Some are more acceptable. Others can hurt the downtown vision. That's why a CUP is the right tool for the job, because when the particular use and business comes in front of you, you'll be able to say yes or no at that time, knowing what the market is like at the time, not trying to guess what the future is. Letting the market evolve. A CUP is used to ensure that the proposed use is compatible and not detrimental, and you retain control. You retain input as to the design, the location, the use. You have all the power and all the control, but you don't tie yourself today to something where you don't know what it will be like in the future. Here are some suggested uses. These are all set forth in our letter. I'll go through these very briefly. That we suggest should not be a yes and should not be a no, but should be a CUP. For example, new car motor vehicle dealer. If Tesla came and said, we want to put a showroom in downtown Apache Junction, I think you'd want to do that. That could be done by a CUP, is our suggestion. General auto repair. If you've been to a AAA store, one of the newer AAA stores where all of the work is done behind closed doors and inside their building, they're beautiful. They're really a nice use. I would suggest that that's the kind of use you would perhaps be open to. And so a general auto repair, you don't want dirty cars out there, you don't want old cars in the front, but having something like a AAA is something that you may want to say yes to in the future if you like that particular use. Car washes, I'll show you an example in the future. If you haven't been to a modern car wash, one that was built in the last 3 years, you're in for a treat. It's a different experience, and it attracts a lot of people to what we want to be a vibrant area of downtown. Same thing for automotive parts, appliance sales and parts, building materials. I'm going to give you some examples of these in a moment. Nurseries and greenhouses, antique stores, printing stores. I understand you don't want a big commercial print shop, but a well-located FedEx or a Kinko's or something like that in the right location with the right look may be appropriate as you decide at the time. Again, personal and household goods repair and physician offices, in our view, should be subject to a CUP. It could be a standalone building or in a line of other buildings, but you would have the choice, you would have the authority to approve or disapprove that use at the time. Let me just show this map of Gilbert Heritage. This is their downtown. They've worked for a long time on this. They put a lot of money into this. I just want to quickly point out 4 businesses here. Arizona Hardwood Building Supply, that under the current B3 that's proposed would be disallowed. Yet there it is in Gilbert Heritage. We're not saying make that a yes, I'm saying make that a CUP. CJ's Antiques and Garden, right there smack downtown in Gilbert. Currently, that's a no on the B3 to have an antique store. I'm not suggesting it should be a yes, I'm saying make it a CUP. Flashback Antiques, same answer. Godar Electronics, because of the retail and the repair element, would currently be a no under the proposed B3. Again, here we have it in downtown Gilbert. We have it in the Gilbert Heritage District map. Not suggesting that should be a yes. I'm saying keep the flexibility and control and make that in a CUP. Now, here's an example of a printing shop. We think this should be a CUP. That's a nice looking building in the right place, in the right location. Again, you would get to choose if you like the look and like the use. There's an example that we think should be a CUP. Here's an Ace hardware store in an urban setting. Again, it fits in very nicely. Attracts good retail traffic and would fit in very well in the right setting. We note that there's an existing True Value on Apache Trail. Here's an example of a luxury car wash. Again, we're not saying to allow car washes or disallow, make it subject to a CUP. So you can take a look at the building, the proposal, tour it, take a look at it and say, is this what we want within our B3? You may say yes, you may say no. That's a pretty good looking car wash. See the cars back in the back through the window? That would be welcomed in many locations. So the key to managing these uses is balancing flexibility and control. Retail and commercial will not remain static. The changes we've seen take place over the last few years will continue to accelerate. You just Google retail transformation, you'll pull up 1 million articles in a second and you'll realize, wow, this place is changing. This industry is changing dramatically. And our suggestion, our recommendation is that a CUP is the right tool to give you the flexibility and control. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to present this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is still a public hearing. Does anyone else want to come up and say something? Yes.
That's important. It was what I was thinking.
Donica, Apache Junction resident. I was watching some of the video of what he was showing, and I think if a business looks more modern or even old, such as, I don't know if a lot of you have been down to Bisbee, but a lot of the buildings are close to the street, pretty close. But if it looks modern and looks up to date, to where it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb, I think that what he's suggesting looks pretty good. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I'm Jeff Barlett. I'm over at 108 North Meridian Drive, apartment 220 in Apache Junction, Arizona. I kind of have a different opinion on these, so I'm looking here, and it looks like, 2 pages of public hearings of all. I haven't been to a couple council meetings recently, but it looks like a lot of earmarks, a lot of red tape here. I think if someone's going to run their business, I think too many zoning regulations is not a good thing. I personally don't think a business should have to apply for a conditional use permit. I think it should be easier for them in the regulations to set up their business without any issues. I was recently reading on social media, it looks like a business is struggling with dealing with some government regulations. I don't know the whole situation. I just see what people say on social media about it. But I think it looks like, and also I noticed with these cargo containers, it looks like you guys are either trying to regulate them or deregulate them. I haven't been looking at too much of what's going on lately, but in my opinion, if someone wants to have a cargo container in there,
That's the next subject.
oh, this ain't the same one?
Nope, it's not.
Yeah, and that's,
We're talking B3.
yeah. It's all earmarked, and it makes it complicated for the public to understand, and that's not a good thing, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to get here. It should be easier for businesses, and I guess I'll come back up for the cargo container one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, council?
I just have a comment, if I may, Your Honor. I think it's important to understand that in the process of being business-friendly, the purpose of regulating your downtown is to shape it. And you get one shot, so you want to be really careful. So it's not to regulate businesses out of business. It's to really to shape and provide the look and the feel to what the community desires is what it's for. It's not to be over-regulating. Just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
I think one of the things that's very important that we're going to have to look at is the approval of CUPs, because right now in our city, all CUPs are approved by planning and zoning, and they don't even come to city council. So if we want to shape the city, we're going to have to change that unless you want P and Z shaping your city for you.
Kelly?
Yeah, I have a couple things, and I'll go ahead and start with the comments made from Pew and Lake. So I think I would be okay with the majority of these being in a CUP category. I think with the motor vehicle dealers, the one thing that concerns me, and I see it says in a showroom environment with a maximum of a square footage of 7,000 square feet, is to change the wording to something like an indoor showroom, and then to also add that there's no storage or additional vehicles, so that they wouldn't be able to have a lot or something to go on. Something kept pretty inside. I have actually been to the one in the Scottsdale Fashion Mall for Lucid, and it's 100% inside in the middle of the mall. You'd have no idea it was there. So I think something like that I could agree with very easily. I still would like to leave car washes out. I think that we have other zones for them, and as we begin to shape our downtown, like the Vice Mayor said, I think we need to be cognizant of traffic and ins and outs and things like that. So I would still like to leave that one out. And then, the rest I'm pretty okay with. I did want to highlight the physician's office note. Says that we note that on footnote 6, it says that the uses are allowed when not a standalone. And I would be more or less okay to have those as a standalone facility as well. But beyond that, I'm pretty okay with most of this, I think, in my view. And I'll leave it at that for now. I have one other thing, but on a different topic, so if there's any discussion there.
You know, I understand the point exactly, except for I did not either agree with the entire list that you presented. And a lot of that had to do with the car wash and the car repair and the car showroom. Over the last, I don't know how many years since the Grand Hotel site has been available, there had been a lot of auto dealers that wanted that site. But that's really not the image. And I know what you're saying about Lucid being inside the mall. We don't have that kind of buildable area in our downtown for anything like that. Maybe if they had 1 or 2 cars. But I understand it, and I know how each different business is different. You know, Gilbert, they're downtown. Some of those businesses have been there since they built that 30 years ago. You know, and I don't want this to be built and to sit there for 30 years with nothing. So I think we've done a really, really good job. And I don't object to the CUP idea. I just have some problems with some of the businesses that you presented on that list. Trying to be respectful that you own it all. You know, and it behooves you, just like us, to have the best businesses we can have there. We just want to make sure that there are some things we don't want down there. It's not that big of an area. We want to have it tight and nice.
Kelly?
Mayor, I did think of one thing. I would be curious to hear from Larry or Nick on what their thoughts are on some of these suggestions.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Gremmel. So as a rule, some of these, I think, maybe even the offices, we would not need a CUP. I think if we go back and look at these, a FedEx, I don't know that that warrants a CUP. If it is a, you know, a FedEx.
In a center.
A center, I mean, where trucks are coming and going. I mean, we're talking in a downtown setting. So a copy center, I mean, to me, that should just be an allowed use. So I think what we could do as staff is go back and look at the uses that maybe we should go back and think as just a permitted use outright, and then those that, again, I'm not too excited about a car wash in the, there's not, when you think about the B3 and the 73 acres that they currently own, 22 acres is already going to be devoted to multifamily. The Nest property is multifamily, so we're really talking about a small area of land, the old hotel site, the 15 or 17 acres that surround that, the area that is affectionately known as the Orange Peel, I believe, that wraps around the Shell station or whatever it is today. That maybe a car wash would be there, would be okay on north of Idaho, but certain, so part of the thing with conditional use permits, our code essentially says the Plan Commission has to do findings of facts. So if they meet those findings of facts, they generally have to approve it. So I think if we want to use the CUP as a tool, then we should come back with some refinements, maybe just for B3, that say what are the B3 CUP conditions, so that we can really get the type of what they're talking about is the city would have some control. Well, under the current B3 scheme, essentially if you meet the findings of facts and they're supposed to be neighborhood specific, so let's create maybe some B3 finding of facts, like where would a car wash make sense in the B3? Well, maybe if it's at a certain location as opposed to a different location. So anyway, I guess my suggestion is, because of the Labor Day holiday, there is no Monday. I think you should have another work session on it. I think you should do the first meeting in September on a Monday. We can walk through it on the Monday, and then I think you'll be more ready to approve it.
Yeah.
Talking to the representatives here tonight, is they're not in a hurry. They want to get it right. They want you to get it right. And so I think if we don't refer it for 2 weeks, or that's the wrong word, I can't use
Continue,
that
I
word,
think is the
continue.
word, yeah. Or a new
But
business
we actually would do it, I think, on the 16th and
Well,
17th.
Or a new business item on the 7th.
Or a
Just
new,
a
well,
temporary.
again, it could be, well, you can continue the public hearing,
Yep.
or you could have a work session on Monday and then have the public hearing on, I think it's the 17th.
Well, it'd be the 7th for the next hearing. That's a Tuesday.
I'm recommending we not do that, Joel. I'm
Okay.
saying come back a month from now.
I want a month.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really think you get one chance. Vice Mayor alluded to this. Our partners here, this is big. I remember when Herb Madden came in my life and purchased,
Yeah.
and their recent holdings changed, and Larry alluded to east of Idaho and multifamily and near the Shell station. Let's take another month. We're getting really close.
Yep.
You have a partner in the room that wants to work through that. So I would say whatever Larry's recommending, I think would
The
be.
20th is a work session, and the 21st would be a council meeting.
Yeah, I think that's my recommendation.
Just knowing that October is reserved for state land.
Yeah.
And boards and commissions.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get it right.
Do you want to make another comment?
I have one more point that I kind of want to discuss so that, and I know it'll end up going back to them to work through the next month. So if we can do that now, or I can wait a minute.
Go ahead right now.
Al, if I can. So I had the opportunity, I know at the last meeting when this was brought up, I know I brought out specifically about restaurants in this area and in more in terms of amplified music. So since that meeting, I've had the opportunity to do a little bit of research into what Mesa, Gilbert, and Chandler do in their mixed-use commercial zoning. And then last night, I was able to actually speak to Gilbert's mayor, Bridget Peterson, and walk through this a little bit. So this is Gilbert's use table, and what's highlighted in yellow are the restaurants and bars and things. And the one thing that I noticed in Gilbert, Chandler, and Mesa is they don't differentiate any of those establishments with amplified music or non-amplified music or sound or anything along that line. They allow it, and then they back that up with their noise ordinances and other things. Chandler actually has what's called a entertainment use permit that specifically applies to those types of establishments. So if they live in 600 feet or less from a residentially zoned property, they are required to do this. Or if that's indoor music, if it's outdoors, it's within 1,320 feet that they have to go under the entertainment use permit. Mesa follows more or less kind of the same suit from my conversations with them, in that they allow them and then control them under the regulation with the noise ordinance. So I wanted to bring that up because I think when we talk about regulating and we talk about our downtown, we want to provide a great opportunity. The mayor of Gilbert and I had a great conversation, and one of the things that they did more or less with their heritage district, so exactly what they're kind of talking about, is have a really great guideline and a plan. So she specifically mentioned Whiskey Row and the fact that they have a westward facing and northward facing open wall. But when building that, they thought very strategically and placed that on the western side because they have residential on the eastern side that protected that, which I know we had some discussion about. So I think there are opportunities to allow them under permitted uses without having to do a CUP that we're missing out on. And I just want to have that conversation and really see what we can do to find the best solution, because I don't think we're there yet on that specific thing. Everything else I'm great with, just not the amplified music with restaurants and bars and anything else along that line.
Okay, anyone else? Well, I have a couple of things I just wanted to bring up, and this is on the chart which shows out, and I just wanted to emphasize the fact that sometimes when we're looking at something, we look at them with our blinders on. I'm going to point, and I understand there's some notes in the back, and I think using those notes in the back helps explain and I'll say the conditions that these things are allowed. For example, note, I think it was 2, or not 2, excuse me, 6 is talking about for incidental usages on it. And as you know, I'm involved with the horse community, and we feed our horses, which are not our pets, our horses feed. And it's, you know, what's accepted in as far as language and everything. But we don't want a feed and fertilizer sales. But later on, in pets and pet supply sales, yes, with a 6 on it. So I think that, you know, sometimes we get wrapped up in the words and in how this could end up affecting someone on it. I think that we need to take a look at those things as well. And one of the other ones was, I have a couple others, but, it was the manufacturing and ancillary manufacturing, yes, with the 2. What is that in the aspect on it? And it's supposedly going to be, you know, a indoor, and it's going to be less than 1,500 square foot, and less than 50% of the total floor. And I just, it's not, to me, it's not explaining enough in it. And so some of those things I would like to either addressed as well, and to clear the air when it's not, I won't say sitting there. So I'll need a motion to postpone it to?
Need, Joel, just a continuance.
Just continuance?
Be continuance, also to the 21st for the public hearing. However, you do want to have a work session on the 20th also.
Do they need to make in the motion the 20th work session?
I think you should.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to do a continuance until work session on the 21st,
20th.
20th?
For both items, or does it have to be separate?
Both items.
Both items. Okay. I move to continue item 21-385 and 21-386 to the September 20th work session and September 21st public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
And Robert, you're going to be here for this one, right?
Well,
Yes.
absolutely, Your Honor. As soon as I heard the word continuous, anything I would have had to say is just noise.
Okay,
Motion passes, Your Honor.
okay.
And thank you, Mr. Hewish, for
Thank
all
you,
of
President.
your input.
Yep.
I will combine the public hearings to number 8 and 9, but council will do separate motions for each. Presentation, discussion of public hearing and consideration proposed ordinance number 1509 and resolution number 21-31 related to document entitled August 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Residential Bulk Regulations, Supplement Regulations, Accessory Structures, and Cargo Containers.
Mayor, I'm wondering if we, I guess it's up to Joel, can we also have ordinance 1510 as part of that public hearing as well?
Well, you should, otherwise,
Related.
yes, it should all be done, but there'd be 2 separate motions if this thing is voted
So,
on.
Mr. Mayor, if
Already
you
did
could
both
also
of them.
read the third item on ordinance 1510.
Okay, so that's 2131. It's a resolution of the mayor.
No.
No.
21.
Item number 10.
38-9.
Item number 10.
Oh, 10?
Yeah.
Okay, presentation, discussion, and public hearing, consideration for proposed ordinance number 1510, amending City Code, Volume 1, Chapter 9, Health and Sanitation, repealing Article number 9-1, property maintenance standards, 9-1-5, cargo containers.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Larry Kurtz, Director of Development Services. I think I want to start with that item number 10 first, because it's probably the least complicated, simple. And so if the other changes are made, and I've talked about this has been to the Plan Commission 3-4 times over the last 18 months. It's been to the council. The item in Chapter 9 in the Health and Sanitation Code, that is a separate chapter just on cargo containers. And at some point along the line, when the zoning code was updated, this section really kind of became redundant. So whatever we do tonight, I do think you should certainly adopt this, and then we can repeal this section of the property maintenance standards. As far as the other sections of the code, I don't have a presentation because I think you've seen this multiple times. I do want to, that is one of the longest
I agree. I've never
things
seen
that
one.
whoever reads this by title only is going to have a lot of reading to do. But I guess the only thing I will say, I think there's a lot of good things in this ordinance. We talked about that last time. We talked about no more big, huge red barns. We talked about, I think, some things that are going to make it easier for property owners. I think it respects the RS 54, where you had to go talk to all your neighbors about whether you could have a building over a certain size. I think a lot of that's cleaned up. I do think, as we do, as Councilmember Biggs just did this in Chandler, Gilbert, and Mesa, I think we do need to look at what other cities do. So Mesa, Queen Creek, and Pinell County do not allow cargo containers on small lots. And I think decisions that are made will have 20-year ramifications. And I think we started this with one property owner who had an acre lot, who was owned RSGR, and couldn't have a cargo container. Now that has morphed into everybody outside of HOA is going to have a cargo container. And so our recommendation is to, if you want to leave it to RSGR, so if you have a 0.34 acre RSGR, or if you have a 0.99 acre, just leave it at GR. Because I think we got also into, well, if I have an acre RSGR, but not an acre and a quarter. So I think if we just leave it at RSGR and allow these overseas shipping containers in the RSGR, I think from a staff standpoint, that is really what the neighbors are doing, and I think that makes sense long-term for the city. So I don't have a big presentation. It's really up for you now to debate as to what you want to do, but if you could, just make sure you adopt number 10, if nothing else tonight. Thank you. And I can answer any questions if anybody has questions about a specific section of the code.
I don't have a problem with the smaller lots having these, but I wouldn't want to see they come in different sizes, 40 foot, 53 foot, whatever. Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense on a small lot, but when they can get these containers 10 foot or 20 foot, they do make a little bit more sense. And so I don't necessarily, because they could have a shed that size, so I don't really have a problem. I think it should be based on the size of the lot. The size of the container, somehow, if we're looking to regulate, make it according to the size of the lot.
And we did do that. So on the larger lot, you can have an 8 by 40. We specifically define these as overseas shipping containers that are going to be 40 feet because they do make 53 footers.
Right.
That go on semis or off the train and onto a semi. And then for the smaller lots, it's 160 square feet, which is an 8 by 20. But I think also in the staff report from previous ones, we have 3 now that I think are the 8 by 40s on small lots. Somehow they got them on the small lots. So we have 3 code cases now with, they're unpainted, and then it just becomes a code case. So again, it's up to you what you want to do. That's just looking at your neighbors. That's what they're doing.
The recollection from the last conversation was that we made sure that this proposal had no stipulation for stucco, that it involved 100% use for paint, and that a permit would be required. And so Larry's done that, and I think that was one of the sticking points in the last. We're hopeful that we can get this vote done and move on. We have a lot on our agenda at the city here, and so I'm hoping that we can work through this one tonight and get a vote and move forward.
Anyone else? Yes.
I like what Larry said as far as what our neighbors are doing. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever. There's other items available that can go on smaller lots that look residential. These don't look residential. We've seen great pictures of what they can be, but nobody does that. That's the reality of it. We can't even get people to paint them that have them on their yards. I mean, this is always one of our ongoing code problems. Correct, Larry? You know, I have no problem with, I like the way this throws it all together, but I on my own looked up what Mesa and what our surrounding cities were doing, and they are only allowed on large lots. They're not allowed in subdivisions, and actually most of them specified 1.25 acres. Now, if everybody else is okay, if it's just RSGR, that it could be a 0.9 acre lot, then that's okay. But other than that, they only should be on large lots.
Brady?
I have nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Robert?
Robert, do you have anything? Oh, Robert?
Did we lose Robert?
He's on a roller coaster.
They're all closed right now.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
Okay. Just got off your ride, right? I have one question that has not anything to do with a cargo container, but it has to do with the say document that is attached to the presentation. And under on C6 on page 1, or excuse me, on page 2 of this accessory structures, it says accessory structure shall be located 15 feet from any non-FEMA wash. What is a non-FEMA wash?
So we know what a FEMA wash is, correct? It's a
Yes.
floodplain, recognized floodplain. So if it's not on a flood map, flood insurance rate map, flood study map, then it's a non-FEMA wash.
So like on Roosevelt, that way the wash ran on that, that's not a FEMA wash.
Okay. Well, and that presents I'm going to say, a hypothetical situation. Myself, we have what we call a small wash that goes through our property. It starts 2 houses up from us, so it accumulates on their property, 1.25 acres, the neighbor's property, 1.25 acres, and then comes on to mine, and it continues on and goes for 9 other homes. Then it joins up with one of the subsidiaries of the Weeks Wash. It's still not part of the floodplain. The most water I've ever seen going through that, so when we had some hellacious downpours, was, I'm going to say, less than 3 to 4 inches of water running through it, but it's about a little over 3 foot wide at that time. That's on my property. You go down 4 houses down, it's now running out about better than 4 foot, and it's now accumulated more water running off people's property, and it's now running, about 6 inches deep. Is that a non-FEMA wash?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that means,
Any building built over 120 square feet would have to be 15 feet away from where we would view the top of bank.
so do we grandfather things in that have been done?
Anything Going forward, everything
So no,
about
we're
this
trying-
code,
we're gonna
if
have to redesign.
nobody has to move their building, nobody has to move their wash. We're saying when you come in and get a new building permit, when you give us a site plan, you'll draw a line, or we'll look at an aerial photo, we'll see a wash. You can identify the wash, just like you have to be 10 feet from a septic tank, 6 feet from another building, you have to be 15 feet from a wash. Nobody has to move anything they have today.
Yeah.
It's just looking forward.
Okay.
Why is there such a long time frame for this to take effect instead of our normal 30-day notice?
We thought we would start giving folks some notice through Al and social media and the website to start it. You can start it whenever you want. That was our suggestion.
I mean, to go all the way to January is a long time.
Yeah, you can start it, I believe, without an emergency within 30 days or something.
Well, you,
Zoning code.
because it's a zoning ordinance, it would be good in 30 days. However, you could go beyond that if you'd like, but you can't go shorter than 30 days because for zoning cases under ARS 19-142, I believe, you cannot add emergency clause to a zoning code.
I don't have a problem with extending it. I think they were very gracious in doing that. And in educating the community, it sounds like it's an issue. A lot of people have them, you know. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea. You're giving some grace and getting the community used to something new. Let it, why rush it? This is something new.
Well, I didn't say to rush it. I just said that that's an extra long period of time that we haven't had before to extend something up. That was my question.
Your Honor.
Yes.
To bounce off of your grandfathering question, what about the code cases that are already open right now? Would they go away? I mean, if now, or would they be modified because I'm assuming that these aren't painted to match the color of the house like in the code? So how does that work?
Well, they're currently code cases. If the council adopts this, if it's a 8x40, then they have to go get a 8x20. If it's right on the lot line up next to the block wall, they have to figure out how to meet setbacks. So we would work with them to figure out if they can keep what they have and if they would have to move it so it can meet setbacks.
So if somebody has
And paint it and all that.
So if somebody has an 8x40 on a small lot, they would not be able to keep that, so they're not grandfathered in?
That is not grandfathered in, no, because the new ordinance would not allow, it's currently not allowed, and the new ordinance would not allow it.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
So it would also give people time that have put them on their lots without a permit to obtain that permit to do it correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay. So can I have this is open to the public, excuse me, I almost jumped the gun here. It's a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on these two items? Or these three items, excuse me.
I want to talk one on the cargo container homes, or cargo containers, period. The fact is, the matter is, I just heard him say is, certain ones won't be grandfathered in. Okay, well, to me is, if something has been there before you came up with a new rule, then you can't go back and try to change it. It's sort of like saying, well, now that weed is legal, you better go release all those potheads that are in jail now, because it's against the law to hold them. I mean, you cannot set a new rule and then go back and change it for the people that have already done this, because it's just wrong. And that's all I have to say about the
Not clarify.
Let's get,
You can clarify.
excuse me, Your Honor. Joe, can we get some clarification? I thought Larry said they're not going to, can we get some clarification on that?
If they're grandfathered, but are we going to make them go back and do additional things? No, and I think Larry will explain that.
So if I understood the point that the speaker made was, so do we use the 160, I think the example I had, if you have an illegal cargo container, illegal, non-conforming cargo container now, and it's not, doesn't become legal by this, you have to remove it. If, say you have a RS 10M lot, 10,000 square foot lot, and you have a 160 square foot cargo container, you'll now be able to come in and get a permit, subject to painting it, meeting the setbacks, et cetera. I don't know if that answered the speaker's point, but there's not so all the ones that are out there today that have permits, they continue to enjoy those permits.
Yeah, so if you're under a permit right now, you're good. If you don't have a permit, like Larry said, there's hundreds, did you say, or?
Well, we have at least 20 that are on RSGR that don't have permits, and we're working through the permit process on those. And then we have 3 that I know of that are in the small lot throughout the rest of the city that we've have code cases on. So if they now have a compliant, meaning the one they bought is there and it can meet setbacks and paint it, then they could come in January and get a permit, subject to the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay, we'll continue on with the public hearing. Go ahead.
And again, I'm Jeff Bartlett. I'm over at 108 North Meridian Drive, apartment 220 in Apache Junction, Arizona. So I'd like to speak about these cargo containers, and I can see why I made the mistake there on number 6 here, because I can see bulk use and cargo containers written all over this, and I could see that it's easy to confuse that. Like, this should have probably all been put in one public hearing. I mean, it's more, because all of this is pretty much more regulations on businesses and cargo containers. I mean, we're just putting more regulations on people in their homes, or, I mean, reading all this, I don't know if, like, if I look at this, like, I see someone saying repealing conflicting provisions. I mean, it looks like you might be repealing them. It looks like you might not be. I mean, I also been hearing mentions about how people should be painting these things. I mean, if someone buys a cargo container, they own their lots, or if they're renting a lot, I mean, I don't see why somebody should be told how to paint their own property. I mean, I don't think that's really a good idea. I mean, in my opinion, if someone wanted to buy a cargo container, go to a department store and buy a bunch of paint and just splatter it all over the place, make it look as ugly as possible, I think they should be allowed to do that, in my opinion. And a lot of these neighbors will complain about it, but I mean, it's their property. They should be able to do what they want with it. And then I heard someone speak about, I mean, people already have these cargo containers. Now they're going to be in a situation where they either have to get rid of it or have code enforcement on them. I mean, people are dealing with enough regulations as it is. I don't think it's a good idea to be passing more, especially when, I mean, this is only 2 pages of regulations, but I mean, I go online to the city website, and I mean, you have to click links to even view more pages. I mean, it's not a good thing for people. And the last point I'd like to make is, if someone's going to be buying these things, most people here, I mean, if you look here, I mean, we have about almost 40,000 residents in the city. Not a lot of people are in here. Most people don't go to these council meetings. They're not reading up on this kind of stuff. And when they're thinking about either starting a business that maybe they want to store stuff in a cargo container, or if they want to store stuff, they might not know what to do. I mean, they're not actively coming into these meetings. They're not attorneys looking online about what can they do, cannot do. And there's a lot of situations where people will just go off and do something and not realize that they're doing something illegal or something they can get fined for, and a lot of people might not understand, and then they have code enforcement on them, and they're like, I didn't know, or I don't understand, why is this going on? And then it creates more attention, and then seeing these regulations, I mean, then it starts causing people to debate over them, and they start getting upset with each other. Kind of like what I was mentioning with that business on social media, what I was here. I mean, if there was no regulations, it wouldn't cause as much tension and debate there. I mean, I feel that regulating these cargo containers is not a good idea, and I'd like to thank you for letting me speak here, and God bless.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
Can I just comment?
Yep.
I just want to comment. I think what the council has tried to do is, we've taken an item that wasn't allowed at all. We're realizing that people want it, and there were several different opinions on the council. This was a compromise, and I think that's really a key, because we're trying to bring something in for the people in the community seem to want it. And initially, it was going to be allowed if we built, I think it was drywall, or help me out, wood or something. We had to put something on the exterior. And so the paint, the stucco, I mean, the paint was a compromise. So, yeah, I understand why some may think that your property should be able to do whatever, but at the same time, we have to be neighbor-friendly too. And so it was a compromise. Painting it, making it look a little more, decent, a little more of a neutral color instead of these bright reds and bright whatever green or multicolor. And so that was how that came about.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Something that kind of sparked my brain here a little bit from what the gentleman was saying was in terms of people coming in and trying to get into compliance if they already have a cargo container that would fit in their property. Would there be an opportunity, and this may be a staff question, would there be an opportunity to, we have this 6-month period of time or 4-month period of time that we're working to allow this, to waive the permit fee for these people who are out of compliance, to help bring them into compliance?
Well, waiver fees have come up in the past. However, if you're going to do that, you don't set a legal precedent for other things, but you do set a social precedent. People will look at that saying, hey, back in 2021, you waived the fees on cargo containers, so you need to waive that on building permits. I mean, you will catch that from a lot of people. If you want to do it, yes, you can, but you have to put it in the ordinance.
And what is the fee?
Yeah, thank you.
What is the permit fee for a cargo container?
Larry, can you answer that? I think it's $100. That's 100, right? I think it's 100, but I'm not.
Yes, one time.
$100.
Yep.
So it's not.
So we actually have to put all these now in GIS, which you didn't do before, just so to keep track of them. And we have every permit issued, but that's kind of how we know now whether one was temporary, whether it was permanent. So we also have a small GIS fee too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
And is that per unit?
Well, you can only have one, so it's $100, yes.
So if somebody has two of the smaller ones, they can still only have.
The way we've interpreted it, you can have two 8x20s or one 8x40. So if you put them together and you spot weld them or whatever, we've called that one. But the idea that you could have an 8x20 over here and an 8x20 over there on the larger lots, we say you got to join them.
Larry, would you clarify
Sure.
comment that was made by the public? This is about cargo containers on residential properties.
Well, it's actually an accessory structure ordinance. We're calling
Yeah.
it the cargo container ordinance, but it really deals with any building over 120 square feet.
But it's residential, not business.
We have provisions in here for business, and we actually have provisions in there that the Planning Commission added. So businesses can have cargo containers. They can have one. However, if it's seasonal, then you can have up to 10. So the concern was Walmart has a lot of stuff for 6, 8, 10 weeks, and so one cargo container is not enough for a Walmart. And so we do have provisions for seasonal.
But none of this is disallowing the use of.
None of this disallows anything for
For cargo, the use of.
Yes.
What is it?
And if you, I guess, to clarify the other point, if you pass this tonight, this is more, giving homeowners more options. So it's not restricting anybody. You're actually opening this up for many more people.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. And do I have a motion for the resolution, or ordinance number, 1509?
Your Honor.
Number 8? Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1509 be read by title only and the reading of the the reading of the entire ordinance be waived.
See, I thought it was number 10. I'm confused. I'm
Which one?
sorry.
Don't we have to start with 7?
I thought we were on number 10. I apologize.
You know, the order,
Which order should we do them in?
you should do the order that they're in, but you don't have to. I mean,
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
but you got to say ordinance number 1509 and also resolution 2131 and also the other ordinance.
But ordinance 1509 is the start of cargo containers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a second on his motion.
Well, I'll second it.
Don't everybody
So we're-
jump up.
Okay, so we're doing 1509.
That's number 8.
Okay.
Moved and seconded.
Ordinance 1509, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 1, Zoning Ordinance, by amending Article 1-5, Zoning Bulk and Use Regulations, Section 1-5-2, Residential Bulk Regulations, Table 5-2, Footnotes 7, 8, 9, and 10, by repealing and replacing Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-5, Accessory Structures, by repealing Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-8, Cargo Containers in its entirety, by repealing Article 1-17, Definitions relative to the term cargo container, and replacing it with overseas shipping container, by adopting by reference that certain document filed with the City Clerk and entitled August 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Zoning Ordinance, Article 1-5, Zoning Bulk and Use Regulations, Section 1-5-2, Residential Bulk Regulations, Table 5-2, Footnotes 7, 8, 9, and 10, Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-5, Accessory Structures, 1-6-8, Cargo Containers, Article 1-17, Definitions, repealing any conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for penalties.
Okay.
I'd hate to see what the whole thing was like.
Okay, do I have a motion to,
Title only.
You have
for
to
this
do
ordinance
another
number
title only?
No.
1509?
Waiting for did I hear, did you hear a second?
So for the reading, I had a first and a second.
Yep.
And for the adoption, I just need a motion and
And second.
second.
Yep.
So that's to adopt everything as it is.
As it is.
As it is.
1509.
Unless you want to change it to RSGR.
Wait, I'm sorry.
So
I didn't hear a vote on,
I missed the vote before I read the ordinance by title. So it was to
you
read
gotta read it
the
over.
ordinance by oh. Can I ditto? But if you want, if I'm correct, Joel, if they want to make amendments to the ordinance, it would be done at the second part, not by the reading of the title only.
Right, but the title only,
We have to vote on her.
We gotta
reading
vote on the
only.
title.
you need to vote on that, yeah.
We didn't vote on it.
We didn't. You just had the motion in the second. We never voted on the title only.
Okay.
My
All right, so let's
apologies.
We'll play the recording.
Roll call in on title only.
Would you please call a roll call?
That's what I said, roll call on,
Oh, my apologies. Okay.
on title only.
A little hard tonight. Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, I'm going to do this quickly. Ordinance 1509, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of City of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 1, zoning ordinance by amending Article 1-5, zoning bulk and use regulations, Section 1-5-2, residential bulk regulations, Table 5-2, footnotes 7, 8, 9, and 10, by repealing and replacing Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-5, Accessory Structures, by repealing Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-8, Cargo Containers, its entirety, by repealing Article 1-17, Definitions related to the term cargo container, and replacing it with overseas shipping container, by adopting by reference that certain document filed with the City Clerk and entitled August 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Zoning Ordinance, Article 1-5, Zoning Bulk and Use Regulations, Section 1-5-2, Residential Bulk Regulations, Table 5-2, footnotes 7, 8, 9, and 10, Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-5, Accessory Structures, 1-6-8, Cargo Containers, Article 1-17, Definitions, repealing any conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for penalties.
Good job.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Could you repeat?
Third time the chair.
You've been giving her lessons, Rudy, haven't you?
Oh, Rudy can rattle it fast.
He doesn't breathe when he
Okay.
does it.
So that was the title only.
No, we're
No.
with title only. This is for a motion.
Now we're doing the.
Now we're doing the motion.
The main motion, main motion.
So now do I have a hearing for, or do I have main motion for this?
Your Honor.
Number 1509.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1509 as read by the city clerk be approved.
Is there a second?
And I will second it again. Moved and seconded?
Councilmember Biggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
No.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
I'm struggling. There's a few things that this was a compromise. We're going to move forward, so my vote is yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
No.
Councilmember Gremmel?
No.
Councilmember Schroeder?
No.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion fails 4-3, Your Honor.
Okay, so
Oh, wait a second. He voted yes.
There's 4 noes.
there's 4 noes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Mr. Schroeder. I had him down as a
He
yes.
said no.
Oh, he had a no.
Voted no.
So you want to?
So it
So-
fails. It does fail.
Do we need to continue on with the others?
No.
You should continue them on, and the motion should be that they not be passed so that you end them now. Otherwise, they're still out there.
But we can't do a second motion.
You can, if you want to.
Well, I'd like to make a second motion then. And I move that ordinance number 1509 as read by city clerk be approved with the following amendments: that cargo containers or overseas shipping containers be permitted only on RSGR lots.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Sorry.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, I was making notes. Councilmember Biggs?
I'm really now confused. No.
Okay. Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
For the sake of moving forward, this can be revisited. I'm going to say yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1, Your Honor.
Okay. So now I'll have a motion for resolution number 21-31. Do I have a motion?
I don't even remember what this one is.
Joel, is this one doesn't need to be amended, correct?
This does not have to be, this is just the resolution that basically makes it a public record.
Okay, Your Honor. I move that resolution number 21-31, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled August 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Zoning Ordinance, Article 1-5, Zoning Bulk and Use Regulations. What's that little symbol again?
Subsection.
Section 1-5-2, Residential Bulk Regulations, Table 5-2, Footnotes 7, 8, 9, and 10, Article 1-6, Supplemental Regulations, Section 1-6-5, Accessory Structures, Definitions, repealing any conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and establishing to be an effective date, which was, did we have one or did we need one? That's a January date?
January?
January 1st?
Yeah, but that's already in the resolution. You
Okay,
don't-
be
Yeah,
approved.
you don't have to say that in the motion.
Okay, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
I'm not thrilled with it, but yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
I did not say that.
You said 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Did I just hear a snort?
A snort and a squeak.
And do we have to have, yes, can I
Yes.
get a motion for
We're getting giddy.
proposed ordinance number 1510, which is number 10?
Discussion.
I move that ordinance number 1510 be read by title only and the reading of the entire ordinance be waived. I'm sorry.
Second.
Is that Rizzi?
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Ordinance number 1510, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1, Chapter 9, Health and Sanitation by repealing Article 9-1, Property Maintenance Standards, Section 9-1-5, Cargo Containers in its entirety, repealing any conflicting provisions and providing for severability.
Okay, now I have a motion,
The main
the
motion.
main motion?
I move that ordinance number 1510, as read by the city clerk, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous, Your Honor.
Okay, we have no old business, thank goodness. And we've already covered the new business. So do I have a motion for the next meetings?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that an executive session at 6 p.m. for Tuesday, September 7th, be held in the City Council Conference Room located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard in Apache Junction, Arizona, and other meetings be scheduled as necessary.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Gremmel.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
I think we need some discussion. Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay. I would like to remind everyone the call of public is a courtesy and not required by law. It's a time for the public to express their requests, communications, comments, and suggestions. Request to speak form must be completed and handed to the city clerk before the city manager's report. All issues shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks, Under the open meeting law, the council cannot engage in a discussion on the issues presented, but may respond to criticism, may direct staff to follow up with the speaker directly, and/or place this matter on future agenda for the council's discussion. There's a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and I have one, and it's Ms. Carr.
Hi, I'm Donna Carr. I'm an Apache Junction resident. One of the things that I specifically wrote on my paper is to find out about putting more stuff in Apache Junction for the younger residents. I'm talking the youth. And I was also hearing the thing about the pool and the problems with raising money and whatnot for the pool. Is you have the multi-gen center, and I'm not sure if you have the property that's surrounding the multi-gen center, but why not put in a second pool? I think it would probably make sense, and you could probably even make more money because then you could charge people for going in and doing their aerobics and whatnot in the water. The other thing I just wanted to mention is the people that were here earlier that were talking about the property that was originally the Grand. I stepped out and talked to the gentleman for a minute before he left, and I said, you know, one of the things that you might want to do is, I'm pretty sure that, you know, if you look at most places, there's no car dealerships and no car washes in the middle of the city. But I said, if you look at Santan Mall area and the way that they structured their buildings to make them look at least more modern, have a little bit of this and a little bit of that there. I mean, you could still make money off of it. But I said, one of the things that you might want to take into consideration, and he said, yeah, that would be a good idea, is if you were to draw, because I love photography, I love art. If you were to draw up a plan, and I'm saying the frontage of buildings and what they would look like when you have it all done, this is what you want it to look like. And then you don't vary from that plan, and that way you can let the city council see what it looks like. I don't think the whole CUP thing I started thinking about it, and it's just giving people loopholes. So if they draw up something of what is going to be built and what it will look like after it's built, and even zoom back. I mean, with the computer technology today, you can do a lot with it to show what something's going to look like before it's even put on the property. So that's all I have to say.
Any comments from the council? Okay, I will close the city council meeting.